Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Indianapolis Colts. They just made headlines yesterday in a move for Carson Wentz, trading for him from the Philadelphia Eagles, gave up a third-round pick here in 2021 and a second-round pick in 2022 that could conditionally turn into a first-round pick. And today, in this video here for the mock draft, we're going to be looking on how the Colts could build around Carson Wentz. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by Trevon Chris Robertson here, a good friend of ours here on the channel. We've been talking football with him for a very long time. I think he's a very intelligent man when it comes to sports in the sports world, and he takes a close look at the NFL draft prospects as well. So he's going to be helping me here go through these picks, look at which way the Colts could be going. So welcome to the channel, Trey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think this is such a unique draft because when you really think about it, they're so flexible. Like they got their quarterback now, so they don't have to worry about that. Their defense is really, really good, and their offensive line is pretty solid outside of tackle. I think you can go a number of options, really. It just depends on how the board falls, when it really comes down to draft day for them.
Right. They have the luxury of having that roster really set up in place already as it is. Now getting that QB, that was the real stopping point for us in some of our mock drafts is how are they going to fill in that QB spot? We thought maybe Sam Darnold. Then the Carson Wentz rumors really started to heat up. They addressed that position really well. So today we're going to be taking a 4-round mock draft here. Remember, they do not have their 3rd-round pick anymore after trading it to the Philadelphia Eagles. So there will be 3 picks for the Indianapolis Colts today. So let's jump into it here. They do have pick 21, and we're going to see who kind of flies off the board here. Kyle Pitts goes as high as 4. Trevon, looking at who's going off the board here, is there anything that's surprising you at this point?
Yeah, scroll down for me. So as I'm glad that we didn't get anything crazy with the first pick because sometimes that happens. But Zach Wilson, that seems about right. Jamar Chase, that's fine. The real shocker is the Kyle Pitts. I think that's really not that he's not a top 5 talent in the draft because I think that he is. It's just the fit, when you really think about it. I think that they would most likely go for somebody like Justin Fields behind there to learn behind Matt Ryan for a year so they can really get him going. And then Penei Sewell, you expect that. He's the best tackle. The Bengals need a tackle. Justin Fields, that seems right. If the ball felt like that, because I would have Kyle Pitts going to the Eagles instead. But that's a pretty good. And then Devonta Smith, you need electricity at wide receiver in Detroit. Patrick Surtain, correct. Trey Lance, you need a quarterback in Denver. Jalen Waddle, really good pick for the Giants. Kwity Paye, I think is a little bit early, but San Francisco they need edge, even more. Rashawn Slater, that's a perfect pick for the Chargers. Samuel Cosme is a really good pick. Rashard Bateman, J.C. Horn, Micah Parsons, Christian Darrisaw. So that's pretty good. Nothing too crazy. Elijah Vera Tucker for the Bears. Terrence Marshall as well. I think that's pretty high for Terrence Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall did go a little bit higher here. Washington's one of those teams, too, that's going to be a little interesting to monitor to see if they go wide receiver, possibly tackle. And that's kind of the same situation we have here with the Indianapolis Colts is there's real 3 positions, in my opinion. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, too, that the Colts need to be really looking at here at pick 21. That is the offensive tackle spot. There's some rumors that Anthony Costanzo might retire. He had a ligament injury in his ankle, sidelined him for the remainder of the season. And that might come down to end his career there in Indianapolis. He's been such a great tackle, but they're going to make sure that they take care of Carson Wentz and that offensive line if he does decide to retire. Wide receiver, another big position. T.Y. Hilton is 32 years old. He is a free agent this offseason. I don't know if a reunion is likely there in Indianapolis. And then you and I were talking about this off screen here about Xavier Rhodes. He had a really nice season there in Indianapolis, kind of built himself back up as a really strong corner, but he is a free agent as well. Which way do you think the Colts are going to be looking to go? Do those 3 positions jump out to you as well?
Seeing as how the board has fallen, I would let me take a look at the cornerbacks, I want to say. Asante Samuel is a pretty interesting pick. I think Asante Samuel is a really good corner, really physical. Let me see the tackles as well. The tackles, you still have Leatherwood, Dylan Runes. I think he's really, really good. He's really versatile, can play inside, can play out, gives you that flexibility. I personally always like versatility because it just makes your whole life flexible. You know what I mean? Let's say a tackle's out for a while. You can have him kick out kick back out or kick him in. I think that's really good. I think Alex Leatherwood pops out right off the bat, though. Personally, I like him there, and the Asante Samuel really makes me wonder. Let me see wide receivers. Tooney would not be bad. He's very shifty, run after the catch. Really reminds me of like an A.J. Brown type receiver, but he has a lot more twitch to him, I think. Rondale Moore's pretty solid. St. Brown, pretty good. But I think here, honestly, personally, if I had to pick, I'd probably go Asante Samuel Jr. just because of the simple fact of I think Leatherwood would go a little bit later, maybe like a fringe second-round pick. And it's too high for me right now to take the other Alabama tackle. I forget his name at this moment in time. I'm drawing a blank. Landon Dickerson, the interior. So I would take Asante Samuel, given how the board has fallen.
Yeah, I really like that too. They're in Indianapolis, especially in that division. You're looking at an AFC South in which the Jaguars are going to probably make a run at Allen Robinson in free agency. They're going to bring in Trevor Lawrence, pick number 1. You also have the Tennessee Titans there. Corey Davis had a really nice season. A.J. Brown, we know how dangerous he can be after the catch. You need to have cornerbacks in that division. I think corner is one of the most important positions in football. And it's at a position that really thins out here outside of the first round, in my opinion. After Asante Samuel Jr., there's some questions about Eric Stokes, if he's too grabby as a corner, if he's going to have trouble staying disciplined at the NFL level. There's some questions there. I think grabbing that cornerback here at that point does make a lot of sense. Kadarius Toney's a guy I had really liked, but now we saw here how many wide receivers have fallen to pick 53 for the Indianapolis Colts. Here's a possible place where they could still look to put a guy around Carson Wentz there out of NDSU, the QB that they just traded for. And also Dylan Radins here, the other NDSU product, has fallen to 53 as well. Is there a specific direction you would like to take the Colts now at this point, Trey?
At this point, I was really hoping. I didn't see Leatherwood, and then he just went 2 picks before. Just what I was saying, like if you wait a little bit, I think that he's like fringe first round, mid second round type of pick. He can really go anywhere within that range. So I think that that's really solid value, obviously, for the Washington, but he's not available right now. And Runez is really good, but you more so want somebody to play that tackle position. I'm not saying that he can't, but I think that he'd be a lot better at guard and be able, to just give you that flexibility. If you look at the wide receivers here, there's St. Brown has fallen, and I think he's incredibly good. I think that would be a match made in heaven for them to personally. I think that I would probably go St. Brown, given this. I'm pairing up him with Carson Wentz and giving them a little bit more depth. I think they'll be really good. They have a really good core. Michael Pittman came on really, really high later on in the season, and as well as Paris Campbell coming back. You lose T.Y., but you get St. Brown, and you feel really, really good about your wide receiver core,
Right, yeah, exactly. You look at a team, we saw how important it was for Carson Wentz having wide receivers there in Philadelphia versus when he didn't. That was a big reason for some of his failures there as a Philadelphia Eagle. When he had guys like Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, when he was healthy and playing well at a high level, he was in the MVP conversation. And then he comes back, he's looking over his shoulder too at a backup QB. That's something the Colts don't have that in place. They're not going to, jeopardize his job. He's not going to feel that pressure there, which is something that's going to be really big for him. But additionally, they're going to have some wide receivers that they can bring in. They drafted Michael Pittman last year. I really liked him out of the draft. Now they come back, grab another USC wide receiver, this one being Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do think that fits well with their draft history as well as their current needs on their roster. I think that is a real situation that could play out here on draft night, which I'm really excited to get to. I know that draft night's a big night for you as well as a big-time NFL fan, someone who really loves college football as well. And now here we're moving up to pick 126. This is their 4th-round selection. Remember, we did not have a 3rd-round pick because of the trade for Carson Wentz. And now you kind of have a pick 'em here on which way you want to go, what positions you kind of want to look at. Take me through where you're kind of looking at this point, where you want me to navigate the screen.
Will you show me the offensive linemen? Show me the tackles first. Let me see what we have. So here, Walker Little stands out the most. I think that he's fallen. He's normally around the middle of the 3rd round ish, type of tackle. You don't hear somebody, you're getting a project, personally, like I think that the Colts would be a great place for an older tackle. Like if Trent Williams were to hit the market, like I forget there's one other tackle that also might be coming. I believe Art Armstead might be available because the Saints are in cap, oblivion.
Yeah, right.
So anybody on that roster is pretty much up for grabs. I think they'd be a perfect place to just slide one of those in, and you feel really comfortable with them there, because the rest of the offensive line is so solid and so good. You just really need somebody to just hold their own, and that'd be perfectly fine. That's why I felt a little bit better taking a corner and then a wideout more so than a tackle, just because I feel like my offensive line is good enough that I can almost slide anybody in there. They might struggle a little bit, but they're going to get a lot of help from all those veterans and all the great linemen that they have, because that's how they built their team was from the line back. And that's how you build a football team. But they did it. So here, it's really up to you. It's really a pick 'em. It's really just go to best player available, in my opinion. So if you look at the overall prospects, let me see who's here. Let me go down a little bit. I think that in this situation, the best person I go back to is Little, because we don't really need safety. You could argue that they needed safety. You could argue that. I could definitely see that. Go to the safeties and let me see if they have the Florida State safety. I like that kid a lot. I forget his name. It doesn't seem like they do, because I think that he would have gone already. No,
yeah, and unfortunately, too, the Washington football team keeps taking every guy we're looking for here. They grabbed
I know, literally.
And Cisco as well went right before us. Those are two really strong safeties, too, that could be around this area. And the other thing, too, on draft night, you had kind of mentioned this about the free agency. The Colts have a ton of cap space. They have a lot of assets still after making the move for Carson Wentz. They still have their first-round pick in play. A guy that kind of jumped out to me while you were talking about that tackle spot is maybe Orlando Brown out of the Baltimore Ravens. He's the right tackle usually, played left tackle this year because of injury. And he's recently, had a little bit of distaste with the Baltimore Ravens, wants to find a way out to be a left tackle and get paid left tackle money. And I think the Indianapolis Colts are a perfect situation there. They could trade for him in the final year of his deal. They do have pick 21 still. That could be really the sweetener in a deal for Orlando Brown out of the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's something that's very likely too on draft night. But here at 126, the guy that jumped out to me as well was Walker Little. Because he has that, the notoriety to him. He was a top recruit actually in his high school class. Didn't really pan out quite as well at Stanford. But I think if there's going to be a team that develops him, it is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. I think that you were right on it with that. So I think that is the direction we should go here with Walker Little. We actually see another Stanford guy go right after him. And at this point, let's look at who we were able to grab here with the 3 picks in the first 4 rounds. Asante Samuel Jr., you addressed that cornerback position. I think that is one of the biggest needs for this Colts team moving forward. You need to get some young talent there. The Colts have been struggling in that department, getting some youth at that position for years. Remember, they had Antonio Cromartie starting outside for them a little bit post-Jets era. Now they come out, get a real guy that they don't have to make a move for in free agency on a short-term deal. Instead, they get a guy who's going to have a 5th-year option at that cornerback position in Asante Samuel Jr. Amon-Ra St. Brown comes in at that wide receiver spot. Fits their draft history looking at USC wide receivers. He comes in, fits right into what they have and with Carson Wentz. And then we come back, grab Walker Little, a little bit of a development piece there at tackle, but the Colts are a team very well known for developing players along that offensive line. I think you really did kill it here with this draft. Is there any other takeaways you have here for the Colts situation moving forward?
No, I think that we did a pretty good job of what was given to us, in all honesty, especially with how the board fell. You know what I mean? Like I said before, like the Colts are in such a good position that it doesn't really matter what they do. It's all about just how the board falls. They are so flexible. They didn't have to get a cornerback the first round. They could have gotten, let's say, if there was still a wide out there that they wanted, if there was a tackle there, if they want to reach a little bit on Leatherwood, that's perfectly fine. He's more of a not a shoe-in player, but just, again, putting him besides those veterans, you feel really comfortable and you feel really good. And, like, pretty much all around the board, they have a pretty much all around the board team. You think about teams that are in that Super Bowl window, and you have to consider them now because, you got Carson Wentz. You already had your offensive line. You have the defense to do it as well, and you have the pieces around this young man that, I think that they're definitely going to be on the radar for sure for Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, definitely. They've come close so many years. Remember, they almost edged out the Buffalo Bills actually this year with Phillip Rivers in the playoffs. They got really close in that game, weren't able to pull it out. But I think Carson Wentz coming in gives you a little bit of versatility in that offense, someone who can move a little bit. And if he kind of comes back to form there in Indianapolis, they could be a real problem moving forward, especially if they do hit on some of these picks and make some of the selections that you chose for them here today as well. I think those would be good directions for the Indianapolis Colts. I hope you guys really did enjoy the video. Thank you so much, Trevon, for being on. He is a massive Chargers fan. So, guys, make sure you're staying around. We're going to have a Chargers mock draft coming out on the channel at some point soon. I am sure of that. And we'll also have some more where Trevon's on for some of these team mocks and everything. So let us know down in the comments below if there's a specific team you'd like to see, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.